So now I want to do with you exercise 609, which is the unitary method. What does the unitary method mean, or what is it all about? So let's say if we know the percentage of an amount but not the actual amount, we can use this unitary method to find that whole amount. The word unit means one. And with the unitary method, we first find what is 1%. And from that, we calculate the whole percent, or the 100% value. So for example, if 15% of an amount, 15% of an unknown amount is $75, what is that whole amount? So let's put that in mathematical terms. I know that I've got 15% of some amount that we call X. Let's say that's going to be equal to $75. Okay, the first thing I do, I work out what is 1% of that amount. So I can say 1% of X is going to be $75 divided by 15. If 15% is 75, 1% is going to be 75 divided by 15. So that means that's equal to 75 divided by 15 works out to be $5. So that means 1% of that amount is in fact $5. If I know what 1% is, now I can work out what is 100% of X, which is going to be the $5 times 100. And that, of course, is $500. So 100% of X, sorry, that's a bit messy, I'll write that again. So that works out to be, of course, $500. So that means 100% of X, or the total value, the whole amount, X is $500. How did we do it? We used the unitary method. We first worked out what is 1%. I'm given 15. I worked out what is 1%. So I divided my 15% amount by 15 to get 1%. Once I know what 1% is, to get 100%, I multiply that by 100, and that gives me my whole amount. So let's now do this example with using the unitary method. The example says a farmer lost 30% of her sheep in a flood. If she had 560 sheep left, how many sheep did she have before the flood? So looking at this carefully, the farmer lost 30% of her sheep and 560 sheep are left. So is the 560 sheep the 30%? Be careful. The amount she lost was the 30%. The amount left is how much in percentage term? If she lost 30%, how much has she got left? She's still got 70% left. So that means the 560 is not 30, but the 560 is 70%, because that's how much sheep, how many sheep she has left. So now we can write that 70% of X, which is my total amount. How many sheep did she have? Total amount of sheep did she have before the flood? My total amount is X. So 70% of X is in fact how much she's got left, which is 560. The unitary method means I work out what is 1%. So that means 1% of X is going to be 560 divided by 70. If 70% is 560, 1% is going to be 560 divided by 70. And then we work that out, and that works out to be 8. And if 1% is 8, that means 100% of X is going to be 8 times 100, which of course is 800 sheep. So the number of sheep this farmer had before the flood is 800 sheep. So now let's use the unitary method to solve this question, which is question 6 of exercise 609. If you look at your book at this question, it will help you to follow what the question is actually asking. I'll read it out. The question is asking, saying, a cake decorator makes 18% profit on cakes she decorates. If she sells a cake for $330.40, so the selling price is $330.40, what was the original cost of the cake? So what's the cost price of the cake? So the selling price, which is inclusive of the profit. You take your cost price, you add on it how much profit you want to make, that gives you your selling price. So in this case, we need to work out what is the cost price. I know what my selling price is, which includes 18% profit. So the question is, what was the cost price or the original cost of the cake? And we need to select the closest answer between a choice of 4 answers. So let's calculate this. Let's think about this for a minute. The selling price is the cost price plus the profit. What's the cost price? Well, that's the price we want. That's our X that we want. So really, our $330 is going to be 100% of X plus 18% of X. That equals $330.40. So in other words, I can say that my selling price is in fact 118% of X. That equals $330.40. Okay, so I've got now 118% of X is $330.40. What is 1% of X? Well, that's $330.40 divided by 118. The unitary method means we want to reduce the 118% down to 1%. So that means I divide the left side by 118, divide the right side by 119. On the left I finish up with 1%. On the right, I've got 330.4 divided by 118. Put that in the calculator, and I get my answer to be 330 divided by 118. That gives me 2.8. So 1% is 2.8. So that means now 100% of X is going to be 2.8 times 100. If 1% is 2.8, 100% is going to be 2.8 times 100. Move the decimal point 2 places, so I'm left with 280. And that is, of course, my cost price. And that is my answer. So the cost price is $280, which gives me answer D in the choice of answers in the textbook. Now let's do one more example. I'm doing question 10 of exercise 609, looking on your textbook to follow the question. I will also read it, and then we'll go through it together. So question 10 says, Matthew buys a game system for $348 at a discount of 20%. So the sale price after the discount is $348. The discount is 20%. The question is asking, what was the original price of the game system? What's the original price of the game system? So now, how do we do this? Well, let's have a think about this. Discount. Discount means take away, smaller, you reduce. So if I've discounted my price by 20%, I've reduced my original price by 20%. That reduction came down to $348. So if my original price is, let's say, 100%, my discount after I've taken off 20% is going to be really 80% of my original price. So 348 is in fact 80% of my original price because we've taken off 20%. So we can say that 80% of, let's say, P, our original price, or OP, let's say, 80% of the original price is now going to be my sale price, which is $348. So after I've taken 20% off, I've got 80%. So 80% of my original price is how much I paid for it, $348. Let's now do the unitary method. So that means 1% of OP is going to be 348 divided by the 80. And on the calculator, that equals 4.35. That's 1%. Now, I want to know what is my OP, my original price, which is my 100%. So that means 100% of my original price is going to be 4.35 multiplied by 100. If that's 1%, then 100, multiply that by 100, multiply that by 100, I get, move the decimal point 2 places to the right, my answer is going to be $435, and that is my original price. Using the unitary method, what I've done is I noticed that the discount of 20% is in fact 80% of my original price. So my original price, 80% of that is my sale price, which is 348. So I take the 80% of my original price, that's equal to my sale price. The unitary method means I divide both sides by 80 to make 80% down to 1. 1% of it is going to be 348 divided by 80, which works out to be 4.35. If that's 1%, then 100%, which is what I'm looking for, is going to be 100 times 1%, which works out to be $435. That's the price, the original price of the game system.